I'm M. Marinelli, and you're listening to the Twin Peaks Tattoo Podcast. I'm a psychotherapist, a professor of psychology, and an author of Comfort Sequels, the psychology of movie sequels from the 80s and 90s. I write for the Blue Rose magazine, and I'm a huge Twin Peaks fan. I'm not a tattoo artist or a tattoo expert by any means, but I'm a tattoo enthusiast and wanted to make a podcast combining two things I love the most. Each episode of the Twin Peaks Tattoo Podcast interviews someone about their Twin Peaks tattoo and explores what their ink means to them. You can find the Twin Peaks Tattoo Podcast on iTunes and SoundCloud. Thanks for joining. Hey everybody, welcome to a very special bonus episode of the Twin Peaks Tattoo Podcast. In this episode, I talked to Will Dickerson and Gilbert Leiker about their collaboration on this awesome new book, The Tao of Twin Peaks, the meaning behind David Lynch's hit TV series. It's so good. And it's available now at your local bookstore or Amazon. Here is a little more about each of them. Will Dickerson is an award-winning filmmaker, author, and professor. His debut feature film, Detour, which he wrote and directed, was hailed as an underground hit by The Village Voice, an emotional and psychological roller coaster ride by The Examiner, and nothing short of authentic by The New York Times. His book on filmmaking, Detour, Hollywood, How to Direct a Micro-Budget Film, or any film for that matter, was called Candidly Practical, Thoroughly User-Friendly, and an Essential Instruction Guide, especially for independent filmmakers, by Midwest Book Review. He recently adapted his novel No Alternative into a film that was released worldwide. The LA Times described the movie as a remarkably assured and deeply felt grunge-era coming-of-age picture, and Film Threat called it a rare indie gem that delivers solidly on all fronts. Gilbert Leiker was born in the 1970s in the northwestern United States. He was almost immediately captured by robots and forced into a life of continuous illustration and time travel. During the day, he works as a designer and animator for a large gaming online gambling company. Once the workday is over, he heads to the drawing table where he must draw and draw and draw. In exchange, the robots keep Gilbert entertained with a steady flow of comic books and zombie movies. His cat assistant, Lois Lane, helps him stay on task. Here are Will and Gilbert.
My name is Will Dickerson. I'm the writer of The Tao of Twin Peaks, which is a new book that I collaborated with Gilbert Leiker on. I'm a longtime Twin Peaks fanatic since the airing of the second season. I didn't catch on to it until the second season. I was 11 years old, and I happened to catch one of the handful of episodes that David Lynch directed, and it hit me so hard emotionally. It was the episode where Bob crawls toward the camera. Maddie's imagining him. It's perhaps one of the most terrifying images ever to
The
be
stuff of
broadcast on
nightmares.
television.
Yeah.
The absolute stuff of nightmares. And it was the first time, and I'd watched a lot of film and TV up until that point, but it was the first time that I asked myself, okay, there's a creative mind behind this, designing this. Whatever they're doing, I want to learn how to do that. And that sparked a lifelong pursuit of filmmaking. So all of my filmmaking career is really you can thank David Lynch for that because he sucked me in at that moment.
And Gilbert, how about for you?
Hi, I'm Gilbert. I'm a illustrator and graphic designer living in Nevada. And I too have been a fan of Twin Peaks basically since it aired and kind of had that same discovery like William spoke to of just finally seeing something on TV that was so strange and uh, nightmarish and just kind of feeling, as a kind of a nerdy person, always drawing weird stuff to see somebody else out there that was creating weird, strange things on such a higher level was just kind of a revelation that like, oh no, you can go out there and do these weird, dark things and share them with the world and blow the world's mind. You don't have to keep all this strange stuff to yourself. So
That's fabulous. Thanks, Gilbert. It's really nice to have you both here and to hear a little bit more about your artistry. How did the two of you begin to collaborate on the Tao of Twin Peaks? Take us through that.
Basically, it started from a Facebook post that I wrote looking for a layout designer. I had been working on this book, on the text of the book, for about 4 years. During the pandemic, we all had a lot of time on our hands. I decided it was a good time to rewatch all of Twin Peaks, and I just started to take notes on it. Never really intended to write anything, but it just started to spark all of these ideas, and then one thing led to another, and I ended up eventually, over the course of these years, writing a manuscript, and I needed someone to help me put it together. And I just put out a Facebook post, and a mutual friend, Travis, put us in touch. And not only did he tell me that Gilbert was a layout designer, but also a Twin Peaks artist. I was like, holy crap, that's amazing. Because I hadn't thought about like the graphic element of it until that. And I was like, oh, you know what? Might you be willing to draw some imagery for this? And Gilbert was all in.
I mean, how lucky and serendipitous is that? I mean, like, talk about synchronicities. It's like fantastic because then Gilbert, you're like, you're really understanding the depth and the weirdness, right? And all of the things that that you're bringing that goes outside the just the layout, which is also important, obviously, aesthetically.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was quite a happenstance. I mean, I was lucky to get in contact, and thankfully Gilbert resonated with the material, and it was kind of just meant to be. He sent me some of his Twin Peaks comics, which have been out there, which are terrific, and then we just worked from the ideas in the book and created material that was inspired by the show, but not like literally from the show. There might be like a couple of images that are from the show because we wanted to specifically reference one of Lynch's shots, but other than that, it's a lot of it's from Gilbert's imagination.
And Gilbert, like, how did you decide how to conceptualize the imagery? Like, what's that process like for you?
Will sent me like early draft of the book, so I did kind of a read through of the book while just kind of sketching ideas of images that grabbed me. So I did sketches for even just sometimes little head sketches or thumbnails for large portions of the book. And then after some back and forth with Will, like he kind of went through and made like a list of areas he thought that also would be good to illustrate to help the reader visualize things. Um, because sometimes I'm just going to want to draw cool scenes, but as the author, Will's going to need to show like the visuals of like the one of the opening shots that he specifically wanted to show. Um, that that it's like this will be great to have a visual example, and so we kind of merged our two lists and organized everything to figure it out. Because otherwise, I would just sit there and draw the whole book, just whatever I whatever I thought was cool. Uh, and we would just wind up having the book would be like 500 pages and 2/3 of it would be my doodles. So yeah, so Will really helped, bring a list of what it was we needed to kind of focus on to make examples for the readers and stuff like that. Um, to kind of help me focus on what it was that I should be drawing.
First of all, I love Elvis. The Elvis moment is so fun.
Oh, cool.
And all the Elvis content, the way you bring that in, Will, and tie it in
Nice.
when the Let's Rock stuff is so cool.
Oh,
And
awesome.
then also this picture of her laying in the bed with the chevron cover is really powerful. The way she's turned and the way that you have the black, sort of darkened shadow on the sides. It's very powerful. Like there's a lot of really, really powerful imagery in here and things that are sort of iconic, like wrapped in plastic, but they've got, I can tell Gilbert, and I say this without being a visual artist, so, but I can tell that it's got a little bit of a twist, a little bit of your eye and your vision, and maybe will the collaboration between the two of you that makes it not just it's iconic enough that we recognize it, but it's got a twist, it's got a strangeness, it's got added duality, right, which is what the
Mm.
whole thing is about. So I feel like you really did an amazing job of encompassing the yin and the yang, the duality piece, and twisting it just enough.
Cool. Yeah, I mean that's one of my favorite designs in the book for sure. And yeah, we worked off the the main theme of the book, which is like you said, the yin, the yang, the shadow selves, the duality in human beings, which I think is central to Twin Peaks and much of Lynch's work. So that kind of was a glue that we used to connect most, if not all, of the images.
Yeah, and I think that specific image is one where our collaboration really worked out versus me just going wild on my own, because I think my earliest drafts of that were just more of kind of a generic demonic monster shadow that was looming over the bed. And it was William that had the insight of like, hey, it actually kind of needs to probably feel more like Bob or be identifiable as Bob, because I had big claws on it and stuff like that, that had kind of taken it, a little more abstracted from the show. And then, so once I got that message and did the rework of it, where it brought it back tighter into the mythology, it was just like, oh, yeah, like obviously that's what it should have been, like that ties it together in a much better way. And I think that's where the collaboration like worked a lot of its magic, was just, I get lost in the weeds of drawing whatever's fun. You occasionally need the client to kind of say like, no, I'm aiming for this over here. And it's like, oh yeah, that makes it so much more amazing. So
Mhm. And also, it's cool though for you to just like play and explore and see what comes up, right? Because sometimes just magic occurs, as we know from being Lynch fans. So, but like that sounds
yeah.
so fun, you
Oh
guys.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, what another one of my favorites, which we didn't have at first, is the image of David as Gordon Cole with the Twin Peaks sign and the Mount, Mount Si in the
Yeah.
background. And it was, unfortunately, it was right after David had passed, and Gilbert, we were talking, and he's like, I just realized that we don't have any imagery of David in here. We should do something. I was like, go wild, do whatever you want. He came back with this, and it brought tears to my eyes. This
Yeah.
is incredibly beautiful.
Yeah. It's really, 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 really stunning. It's very powerful. Yeah, I recognize this has been a hard year for us in the community. It was January, which feels
Yeah.
both like a long time ago and also just yesterday in some ways. But what a beautiful way to honor his work. I want to say that to the two of you. And Will, to be able, well, tell us about the typewriter, because I read that and talk about like waterworks. I was just like, oh my gosh, are you kidding
Yeah.
me? I'm reading this crying. Yeah, tell us about the typewriter.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting story. So when I lived in LA, well, first of all, I went out to LA to attend AFI, which is David's alma mater. He was the reason why I wanted to go there. So he just brought me out there, and then I graduated from AFI and I started making movies, and just by chance moved across the street from Jennifer Lynch and became very good friends with her for a number of years.
I mean, what? I mean,
It's just really
synchronicity is real. We can't make this
synchronicity.
shit up.
No, we can't,
No.
we cannot. It's incredible. And I would hang out with her often, have coffee, and she was cleaning out her shed one day, and she's like, "Well, I have a couple of my dad's typewriters. They're just sitting here gathering dust. I'm not going to use them. Do you want them?" And I'm like, well, yeah, well, of course. Are you kidding me? This is like the greatest gift ever. And they were inoperable at the time, but I had someone repair them. And as I started writing the book, I was like, you know what? I wish I could incorporate the typewriter somehow into this. And I started to write the intro on it just to have that kind of personal connection, because it's like me talking personally about my connection with Lynch's work. And the first idea was to write the whole thing on it and then just scan it and put it in the book. But I realized, we are pampered with our technology these days. Writing on a typewriter is very difficult, I
It's
learned.
really hard.
And
Yeah.
I would be, I'd make a mistake every couple of sentences. I'd have to just rip the page out and throw it. And I was like, I can't do this. Like, I drafted a lot of the ideas on it, but ultimately we only like published a little bit of it. But
Yeah,
it
like how
was,
does Tom Hanks do it? Like Tom Hanks just writes on typewriters. That's what he does. Like I don't know,
I don't know.
understand. It's a very specific muscle that I guess you just, work to strengthen. But yeah,
I
you're right.
guess.
Nowadays we don't have it, but it's really, but like the spiritual connection of writing that, even making mistakes and being like, ugh,
Yeah.
but that spiritual connection to David while you're doing it is so powerful. Anyway,
Oh,
continue, Will.
yeah,
Sorry.
no, no. I mean, and then that particular typewriter was his office typewriter on Twin Peaks in the first incarnation of it. So there was that connection too. So he had wrote some of the episodes on it. And and then when I started to write it, it was literally the day before he died. It was the weirdest thing. I'm working all day on it into the night. I'm like, I'm going to finish this tomorrow. I can't deal with this. I was getting so frustrated with the typewriter. And the next day, the news broke. I was, this is just weird and awful. But it gave me a little bit of solace because I throughout that time, all I was thinking about was this book and David Lynch's material. So it hit me really hard, but it was nice that I was in that world too at the time.
Yeah, I can imagine it being really healing in a lot of ways. Like part of the
Yeah,
grieving part, right, is like, oh, I'm engaging with him in his work and
exactly.
remembering. And
Yeah, and from that point forward, because I had written the book in the at that time in the present tense, so I then rewrote it. It's difficult to do, right? I had to rewrite it in the past tense, but also with a frame of mind of this. Okay, now this is a tribute to him. Like this is yes, it's an analysis of his work and his themes, but my ultimate goal now is for this to kind of be like a love letter to
Mhm.
my filmmaking hero.
Well, and you nailed it. You nailed it, especially the chapter about episode 8, which I'm going to get there and talk to you and
Oh,
ask you some
cool.
questions about because I was
Yes.
just like, oh, and I couldn't believe it.
Thank you.
We talked about shadows, mentioned the shadow, and Gilbert, you were talking about the shadow over the bed of Bob and making that more sort of like readable in the way of Bob. Since you're both Twin Peaks nerds, which I love so much, tell me a little bit about how, Will, in the book, you're thinking about shadow selves and duality, and Gilbert, how you also see that, and maybe how that was influencing some of the art you were making for this.
So, I mean, part of the thought process in writing the book was, do we need another Twin Peaks book, right? Because there are a lot of Twin Peaks books out there, which I love, and I've read not all of them, but quite a bit, and probably bits and pieces of all of them. But they're all on my shelves, and I love them. So I had to think like, well,
Mm.
what can I say that's different, or is there a unique approach? And I think part of the point of Lynch's work is to kind of speak to the viewer. He's a unique artist in the sense that he needs an audience. Like he creates material that needs to be interpreted. It's not, it's subconsciously absorbed, and then we kind of have to figure it out. And I wholly believe that that was his intention, right? He's making this art for us to bring our own feelings and sort of intellectual processes too. And he was someone who believed in the good in humanity. He was involved in the pursuit of global peace through his TM organization, and he fully believed that yeah, that there is light in the world, but we need to be proactive in our pursuit of light. So it's like, you know what? I think Lynch is trying to tell us something here. The duality, the shadow selves, the divided mind is a very real thing. We all struggle with the dark side of ourselves and the light side of ourselves. But so often we ignore the dark side, but through his work, through his imagery, he makes us confront it. He's forcing us to confront it. And throughout his career, he was criticized, for at times showing just sheer brutality is in his imagery. But I think the point of it is for us to recognize it because we are all, unfortunately, as human beings, capable. We're all capable of this type of
Well, yeah,
behavior.
and we're living in that world. I mean, we're living
Yeah,
in a world where there's sexual violence, where there's incest, where there's all
correct.
these, like, so it's people can't handle the mirror, right? People can't
They
handle the
can't handle
face
the
to face
mirror.
of the shadow. It's too,
Yeah,
it has to be continue to be split off. But
exactly.
Lynch forces us to look at it, like you're
Yeah,
saying.
and
Yeah.
I think his point is we can't ignore it because
Yeah.
more we exacerbate the problem by ignoring it. And I think the return gets even deeper into that with Judy, which, there's a lot of interpretations on Judy. I think as a whole, I kind of separate them into, Bob is aligned with Leland, the perpetrator of the evil, right? As Albert says, like the evil that men do. And Judy is the other side. She represents the people who ignore it, right? They're the ones who won't look in the mirror, refuse to, and just because of that, let things slide, let things happen. And so Judy's more aligned with the Sarah Palmer character who I believe is aware of the abuse that's taking place in their household, but chooses to ignore it.
Yeah, agreed. And I think likely because it's a family system of violence that operates all together, and likely she's also terrified of her own, of her situation of living in that family system with Leland. And
Absolutely.
in
And
is,
yeah.
there's lots of reasons why, but no excuse, obviously, for being complicit in that. Gilbert, how about for you with this question of shadows?
Like a lot of what William said, there's so much analysis into the darkness and the dark characters and how they're represented in Lynch. Um, and I've always liked kind of that same interpretation, like William was talking about the Bob side kind of being the evil that men do, and the Judy side being the side that kind of goes that I'm not going to get involved in that. I'm going to ignore it and hope it goes away, and how that is, an evil that's on its own level alongside with that of the perpetrator. Um, and then just visually, um, from the beginning, from the moment I first watched Twin Peaks, I've always liked that metaphorical shadow over all of the work. It's just that ominous feeling of whether it's in the sound design or just the way the shots kind of linger and drift over things. There's always sort of an emotional, imaginary shadow that's over everything. And so artistically, uh, you're always kind of looking to try to find a way to bring that into the artwork to kind of show the creepiness. But when you're drawing, you don't have the sounds to play with, you don't have the movement to play with. So you artistically are trying to find a way to put people into that same foreboding space and make them feel a little bit uncomfortable or creepy sometimes. So there's kind of an overly complicated but metaphorical shadow of it as well.
And you do such a great job of having the visuals put us into the feeling state, and which is a really wonderful compliment, Will, to your words. I mean, your collaboration just works really well together in this book. And it's a cool book, everybody, that you will add to
Thank you.
cart. Um, it's called The Tao of Twin Peaks, and the meaning behind David Lynch's hit TV series. Okay, that's the full name of it. And Tao literally means path, translates to path
Yeah.
in Chinese. And of course, it has like a greater kind of philosophical whole world connected to it. But
Yeah.
talk about, maybe both of you could speak a little bit to how you see what is this path, or what are the paths?
Well, I mean, I think you could liken it to the Buddhist concept of the middle way, right? Where you have to acknowledge the pain and suffering in life and kind of accept that part in order to balance the other side, right? So you can't get lost in this just ideal version of reality because it doesn't exist. That's an illusion, right? But you also can't linger in the darkness, right? You need to find the middle path through both of these areas by balancing both of them, right? And that's I think like again, Lynch's work does that masterfully, right? Just the balance of the dark and the light. I mean, Blue Velvet is just like a master class in that.
Totally.
So I think there's, this might sound strange, but I think there's an inherent philosophy that I think Lynch is touching on in Twin Peaks and a lot of his work, and that is that idea, right? That we need to balance these two opposing sides of ourselves in order to unify ourselves, right? And that's kind of the point of transcendental meditation. I'm also a meditator, and he spoke a lot about the unified field and diving into that when you meditate. But I think part of that is also symbolic of our divided selves unifying. But in order to unify them, we need to proactively recognize them and bring them together. So that's the path. The path is the active attempt to balance these two parts of ourselves.
And I've always outside of like the weird visuals and stuff, I tend to be a bit root one with a lot of my thoughts on Twin Peaks, where it's like I just like the weirdness. And it takes people like William writing their book to get me to really think about a lot of the deeper philosophies behind a lot of the work, because I'm just looking at that surface going, as a graphic designer, I love bright red curtains, black and white chevron floor. That's my path. That's me. I'm just dealing with the black versus the white. But as I've rewatched a lot more of Lynch's work, revisited Twin Peaks, and then working on this book, I think one of the things that I've personally picked out like an interpretation of Twin Peaks and a lot of David Lynch's work that works for me is it's almost like a very abstract way of him trying to teach empathy, even though it's very dark and very weird. There's a lot, I think, of him trying to trick you into getting into the headspace of this poor girl that's suffering and dying, and it's more than just a who done it. And you know, feel start thinking about what's actually going on with a man like Agent Cooper. In so many other TV shows and works of fiction, you kind of know everything that you need to know about them, and you don't wonder about their hows and whys. But with Twin Peaks, you kind of start to wonder, like, what is driving Cooper to do what he does? What is behind a lot of these things? And you kind of start to empathize with the other characters and notice when the darkness is too brutal for some of these poor souls. And so that's kind of been my path recently through like Twin Peaks and Lynch's work in a lot of ways. And I think a lot of it comes from, the analysis that was done in the book, and getting to read about that and think about it more than I would just kind of going like, oh, I get to draw the Venus statue, or oh, I get to draw the man from another place dancing around. Hooray, weirdness. So yeah, it was kind of nice to take a deeper dive into that and realize how much, empathy you kind of feel for a lot of the characters, except for, like Mr. C, where you're just kind of like, okay, that guy's nothing but pure evil, no empathy for him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, what are you gonna do? Yeah, no, no. But I really like what you both are saying so much, that the pathways are about contending with shadow selves. In both of your answers really is about that, understanding the evil that men do, and trying to have empathy and compassion, even if it's not you're not experiencing what Laura is. We need to see it, right? We need that mirror to be held up. And in
Yes.
doing so, then you have a certain level of balance and integration. I think maybe, yeah, Jung would say like capital S self-integration from all of the parts, because there's so much in the duality, and otherwise there's so much trauma, which means there's so much splitting off of parts and fragmenting selves. And so a lot of it, I think a lot of the way I see his work is about understanding all of that, and then finding places for integration. Like I think Nadine is a great example of integration. I mean, she's still Nadine. She's got a lot of problems. Listen, she's got a lot of problems. Nadine's my favorite character, BT Dubs. So, but
Nice.
but look at what she psychologically had to go through in order to come to this different place of agency, and really get out of the
Yeah.
marriage that was not serving her at all. I mean, I have a lot of feelings about Ed. Let's not go there. Anyway, I'm proud of her. Good job, Nadine. And I think she represents that, finding sort of
Oh yeah.
like moving through a regress state, actually, to come to a different place and then get what she wants. Get that gold shovel, girl. Get it. Walk down the street, run silent, run drapes. You opened a shop. I'm so proud of you. Like, this is, characters can do that. You can see that happen. Her trauma
Oh yeah.
loops, you know, coming to a different place. Yeah.
Oh, 100%, right. Yeah, I think the reintegration of character is the goal in so many within so many of Lynch's characters.
Will, tell us about I can't even speak the language of what you wrote about part 8, but it was glorious. Can you give us just like a little taste test of your chapter on part 8 from
Wow. Yeah.
like a writer perspective, but also as
Sure.
a filmmaker? It was really, really cool to hear your thoughts on all of the minutia of what
Oh,
Lynch
thank
was
you.
doing. It was really
Well, yeah,
fucking cool.
yeah, cool. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I mean, yeah, that's the most in-depth like an chapter when it comes to like the analysis of the filmmaking. And I mean, first of all, it's a landmark episode. I think it's among David Lynch's masterworks. I mean, without question. And so I just went back to it, having been so affected by it in the past, and not really trying to analyze. It was like this needs to be looked at. So I kind of put it under the filmmaking microscope and dissected it. Obviously there are other interpretations out there, but I'm the way that he is conveying feeling is through a series of intersecting storylines, right? Which he does throughout the show, right? But in this particular episode, after the atomic bomb explosion, which is one of the most beautiful pieces of CGI rendering I've ever seen. I mean,
Gorgeous.
it's unbelievable, and he just takes us right into it, and that's what Lynch has been doing his entire career, taking us right into the center of the darkness, confronting it, and giving us a sense of, all right, there's a modern evil that's been birthed here with the atomic bomb. Obviously, evil's always been around; has always existed, right? But with nuclear technology, now evil has the ability to destroy planets. So with that in mind, the main woodsman character, right? The Lincoln-esque woodsman is one of the elements that originate from this bomb. And we see his storyline, which is just unadulterated, just brutality, and his just really effective repetition of "got a light," and he uses the same dialogue, right? He just repeats it. It's literally conveys the feeling of being trapped in a nightmare. It's almost like torture, where you're hearing the same exact delivery of this line over and over and over again. And we don't understand his motivation. He has no motivation. He's just pure evil, where he's just goes on a killing rampage in this radio station. Meanwhile, Lynch is intercutting this storyline with what presumably is the young Sarah Palmer storyline. Some people don't think differently about this. I think Mark Frost kind of went out of his way to tell us that this is Sarah Palmer in his books, and if if she was a victim of abuse in the past or trauma in some way, that might lend itself to the reading of her and Leland being an example of the results of trauma and generational abuse. And
Hmm.
while one is the perpetrator of evil, the other one is the one that looks away. Quite often, unfortunately, abusers have been abused in the past. And we see this beautiful innocent imagery that evokes Edward Hopper. He's literally in the same episode, her storyline and the Woodsman storyline. We have two Edward Hopper paintings that he's recreating, right?
It's so cool
And
how you did those side by side, like in the like side by side with the paintings.
oh yeah, cool. Yeah, thank you. I mean, he was a huge Edward Hopper fan. He was one of his favorite painters. And what Edward Hopper did so well was, on the surface, seemed to create this sort of 50s picture perfect idealism, but through like the way his characters looked, and even the paint he used, it was desaturated slightly. There was something off. There was something underneath the surface that is not right, which clearly Lynch resonated with, because that's what he reflects in his work. So we see this date, this seemingly innocent date with Sarah Palmer and a young man, but there's a strangeness, an uncanny feeling that's being conveyed. And then later on in the episode, she's in her bedroom, the window's open, and she's listening to the radio. She gets hypnotized by the woodsman's mantra, and we see the image of the frog moth entering her mouth, right, and going inside of her. Now, it's obviously a very abstract image. It's terrifying. It's really bizarre, but around it are these images of a man killing people. So I mean, it goes back to the Soviets and Kuleshov. Well, okay, well, if you edit two shots together, two seemingly disparate shots together, by placing them next to one another, you're creating new meaning. And Lynch wants us to find new meaning. Like, what does this mean? Because on their own, they mean something different, but together, what is, because you're leaving me with this feeling of being assaulted, and then you're showing me this woman in bed being violated by a frog moth. So, what does that equal? And it might be a provocative interpretation, but you might read it as an assault on her.
Absolutely. Even if her mouth is widening to invite the frog moth in, it's this creature that is terrifying that's infiltrating her. It's so
Yeah,
like an interject. Yeah.
yeah, and I couldn't help but think about when Leland was arrested in season 2, and Bob leaves him, and he's struck with the guilt of having realized what he's done to his daughter. The way that he described being abused as a child, where he said, I'm paraphrasing now, but he said something to the effect of, and he opened me and came in me, and it's like, okay, well, that's pretty clear. As a pretty clear reference to sexual assault, and you could almost describe the way the frog moth acts, enters her in that scene the same way. So it's like, I don't think that connection was lost on Frost and Lynch. And he works in metaphor. He works in visual metaphor placed next to this brutal imagery. What does that mean? So, I think that obviously Sarah was a very tragic figure, is a very tragic figure in the series, but there is a likelihood that perhaps she was abused too, just as Leland was, and maybe that's something that brought them together in a way.
Yeah, I'm down for that interpretation 100%. Yeah. I mean, it's horrible, but yeah,
It's
but I
awful. I
agree
mean, it's
with
awful.
you.
It's yeah,
It's, but it's how intergenerational trauma works. I mean,
yeah,
that's the
exactly,
thing. It's how the cycles continue. And that's what's so wonderful. One of the many wonderful things about Laura is that she's shutting that shit down. She's like, it ends
exactly.
with me, you know,
Yes,
and that's so powerful. And she has so much agency. Um,
tremendously. Yeah.
Tremendous, especially in Firewalk with Me, obviously, but just in, her character and what she's bringing. Gilbert, what's your hot take on part 8? That should be a short answer, right? I mean, there's like hardly anything to say about part 8. It's
Oh
so
man.
basic.
Um, Yeah, I think you guys have covered like the main traumatic storyline part of it. I will jump into my favorite part of it, which is obviously the visuals, the visual language used there. One of my favorite all-time favorite movies is Stanley Kubrick's 2001.
Mm,
And many comparisons have been drawn between his, entrance into the monolith and into the star field to David Lynch's fly through of the atomic bomb with you have the music, the threnody for the victims of Hiroshima playing, as you watch everything roll through this atomic bomb. And just the visuals of the fireman, the character design of it, such an imposing figure. I loved that William had brought up the Hopper connection to it because when I saw the radio station
mm.
scene, being a big art buff and everything, like when I saw that, I was kind of like that Leonardo DiCaprio meme where I was like pointing at the screen going, wait, wait, I know that from somewhere. And there were quite a few scenes that while I was watching it and when I do rewatches, that I go through and look for the artistic references that I think are kind of hidden in there. Like there's one I'm still trying to find in one of the later episodes when Cooper wakes up and everybody's standing around his hospital bed, that I'm sure there's like a Rembrandt or something in that like Flemish master
Mm.
period with people standing around like a medical table or something that shot is mimicking that I need to do more research on. But I'm pretty sure that like at
Mm.
least once per episode or more that there's something where Lynch is replicating a famous painting or something like that or a famous photograph. And so when episode 8 came along, I was like, nope, I see Hopper right there. I've
Oh
I've
yeah.
caught you. Um, yeah, I loved. those visual aspects. I've said many times before, I think that episode 8 for me is probably one of the greatest visual experiences ever created, as
Yes.
far as like TV shows, but it's up there with even some of the best cinema. Like, I think you could make it as just that episode by itself without any context as like a short film and just pop it out there and be like, watch this. It's going to blow your minds. After you're done, go watch just the 45-minute cut of rabbits from Inland Empire without any context. Just watch rabbits. Like, and then by the end of that, like 4 hour period, you'll just be like this melted puddle of, I don't know what reality is. Like I love those aspects of it. Since I've led a really normal, mediocre life, so I think I see the trauma and storylines in there, and I kind of think about it, but then I get distracted by the David Lynch imagery. But I think that goes back to me learning about how much empathy is hidden throughout these projects, is that you see like a episode 8 and then have somebody point out to you some of the subtext that's going on like Williams' book does, that you start to go, oh man, like, yeah, now I really feel sorry for Sarah Palmer in a way that I didn't. Like, I thought it was a bit weird in Fire Walk with Me how passive and pushed around she was, but now with what's going on in The Return and stuff, I'm suddenly looking at it going, Jesus Christ, like what happened to this poor girl, that's made her this way. So,
Yeah, those are great answers. Thank you both so much for that. I want to talk about tattoos, but I do want to ask you both if you wouldn't mind sharing, how has your relationship to Twin Peaks transformed through doing this project? Will, from writing your book, Gilbert from illustrating it, like what have you gained? What's something that's new for you or transformative?
Wow, that's a really great question. I mean, I've always thought a lot about Twin Peaks, but never more than in the past several months. And it can become a bit obsessive, right? Because there's so
I know.
many symbols, just the numbers alone, you could go down a rabbit hole, and try to figure things out. So I think maybe what I've learned is that while it's appealing to kind of like, okay, go down these certain rabbit holes, I, I like to let some of those things go and let the mystery be the mystery,
Hmm.
because that's part of the fun, right? And I think, if you can kind of isolate the theme, and if that theme is this balance of opposites, you can probably understand, if you really want to dive into it, understand everything that's on the screen. But it's a lot of work on the brain, and it's a lot of material that is it can be disturbing. So, I mean, I think it's ironically, by diving in, I've kind of learned to let go a little bit, if that
I
makes
like
sense.
that. It's such a great metaphor too about just like releasing things and letting them be and letting the
Yeah.
mystery stay the mystery.
Yeah.
But also getting nerdy about it and going deep,
Well,
doing a deep
yeah,
dive
you
and
can
like
have you can do both things, right? They're
yes,
not
yes.
mutually exclusive, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. How about for you, Gilbert?
for me, it's been because I started working on making my own little Twin Peaks fan comics kind of around like 2014 or 15, mostly just sketching little random ideas. And then when The Return came out, I got really invested in it. And then when COVID hit, I had like a job change and everything, and kind of lost a lot of creative spark and motivation. And so I had done like 5 little mini comic books, like in quick succession, like back to back to back, almost like one every like 6 to 8 months. And then it had started to taper off. And since doing William's book, I'm actually back into working on more little comic strips and stuff. Just kind of, got that spark reignited again.
Hell yeah.
So which is nice. And then it's also I mean, I can't tell William this because he'll like, want like a percentage if I ever like start selling my comics or something. Uh, but that the having to go through and do a lot of that analysis, or and read through a lot of that analysis, it's given me a lot of, cool ideas like the Laura in the bed with the shadow looming over her. That it's like, well, I need to steal something like this and put it into my comic books because that's given me an idea for, a little story beat,
Mm.
and stuff like that. Um, so yeah, there's a doing the book was fun because I got to use some of the stuff that I had already drawn and just update it to make it for the book because I was like, oh, I already have, perfect imagery for this. But then it also, sent me down other paths of stuff that I hadn't really thought about before that I'm like now going, oh, I can't wait to, find a story to incorporate this scene in. So
That's
Awesome.
awesome. It inspired you to go back
yeah,
in. That's
yeah, and
look,
dive
Will, look
dive
what you
back
did.
in.
Look what you helped facilitate. Come on
That's amazing.
now.
Well, throughout the process, I just simply thought I was driving Gilbert mad with all my
Now,
requests and
yeah.
obsessiveness.
I'll have to give him like the next little fan comic book. I'll have to give him as like a co-writer credit or something like that,
Uh,
Yeah.
please, these are your mind children. Do what you will
Hmm.
with them.
It just really, really works in the book. I have to say, and it's so nice. I'm co-authoring a book about trauma in Twin Peaks with my friend John Bernardi, who does Blue Rose Task Force
Oh,
podcast.
cool.
If you guys listen to that, it's such a
Yeah.
his pod is wonderful. And we're going along and we're doing the thing, and I'm like, there's got to be something to like break up all this intensity that we're talking about. I'm like, should we do some kind of graphic, like something to help the reader because
Yeah.
there's such great theory, Will, in your book. There's film theory, there's psychological stuff, there's philosophical stuff. There's nerdy, just great stuff, production things. There's great
Mhm.
interviews that you put in there. And it all flows really, really well. And the addition of the visuals just add a different dimensionality to it that is so lovely for the reader's experience. So I'm sitting here going, damn, I gotta call John. We gotta think about this shit. Gilbert, you might get a call from us.
Yeah. Well, Gilbert's available.
Like now, now that you're free from this
Yeah.
project, maybe.
It's
Um,
awesome.
Yeah,
okay, let's
more Twin Peaks drawing. Okay.
yeah. Oh, you're down. Okay, good. Now you're inspired. Okay, so I want to ask you, Will, about your Twin Peaks tattoos. Lay it on
Yes.
us.
Okay.
What are they?
So,
Where are they? Tell us about the whole process.
all right. So I have a number of tattoos. I, one is Twin Peaks related. The other two are Mulholland Drive related, but they all kind of deal with the same theme. So the Twin Peaks tattoo I have is of blue roses, where it's like the external petals are blue and the interiors are like a pink color, and it's quite large on my inner bicep, and it surrounds what is a tattoo of a semicolon type bar from a typewriter, which I got when I made my first, well, not my last movie, No Alternative. I did a crowdfunding campaign for that, and one of the donation options was to, if you pay, it was like $500, you'll get. I'll take 100, put it to the movie, and the rest of it I'm going to donate to Project Semicolon, which is an organization that brings awareness to those suffering with mental illness, and specifically people with suicidal ideation
Hmm.
or people who have been affected by suicide in their life. And my sister was a victim of a drug overdose, and she attempted suicide many times in her life. The movie was a love letter to her.
Oh,
And so someone got the option, and I got it was for the tattoo, and I filmed the tattoo process, posted it online, and I donated money
cool.
to the organization. And then,
I
but
love
it
that.
felt yeah, I love the tattoo, and it's of a it's part of a typewriter. As a writer, that means something to me. But it felt a little lonely, and Twin Peaks, that's my comfort food, right? So I felt like some blue roses around it would be fitting. And also, I was inspired by the Husker Du song "Pink Turns to Blue," which is also about someone dying of a drug overdose. Colors are very interesting, and there's a line in it about angels pacing and gently placing roses around the head of the person that died. So I felt like that was a nice tie-in. And I just had to get a blue rose tattoo because it's the symbol that it is in Twin Peaks. The other two tattoos I have are the two blue keys, another blue tattoo from Mulholland Drive, right? So you have the dream key, right, which is that strange looking key with the crescent moon that opens the box. Then you have the real blue key that Diane gets when the hitman finishes his job. So to me, I always read the film as like the first hour and a half is Diane's dream, and the rest of it is just her waking to this reality, which is actually her nightmare, the life that she's living. So the dream key represents the sort of ideal world, and then the regular blue key represents the harshness of reality. And I have the dream key on the left inner ankle, and then the reality key on the right inner ankle. This is really getting nerdy, but that kind of goes to left brain, right brain sort of stuff, right? So you got the reality key corresponding to the left brain, the dream key corresponding to the right brain, and the dream key was always sort of it was always representative of my like pursuit to be a filmmaker and go out to Hollywood and make dreams come to life. And then the reality, I ended up, having a child. I was about to have a child, and the pressures of reality were building. I was like, it's time for me to get the other blue key because now I got to face reality.
Oh, love that. Yep.
Yeah, so that's that they oppose each other. So I'm really into this duality thing.
Yes, you're so into duality. It's wonderful.
So those are the
Great.
stories behind them.
I love that. Gilbert, how about for you?
I should have gone first. I just have a Superman tattoo. I mean, it has duality, Superman versus Clark Kent. Yeah, I got my Superman tattoo back when I turned 30 and just kind of realized as much as I love tattoo and tattoo artwork, I did not like having someone hovering over me and stabbing into my skin as much as I probably would need to
It's
get
not for
all the
everyone.
tattoos.
Yeah,
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 See,
it's
because
not
I
for
would
yeah,
I would have, you know, Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman, the Green Lantern, David Lynch, the owl ring
well, that's what I
on
was going to ask
one,
you. Yeah, Gilbert, what Twin Peaks tattoo would you get?
probably get something like the owl ring, maybe sitting on like the chevron
Hmm.
pattern, maybe with the red curtains in behind it, just kind of my favorite Lynchian elements of stuff. But yeah, if I had the tolerance for it, I probably would look like I was a member of the Yakuza, and I probably would have scenes from Mulholland Drive and Inland Empire, just entire scenes tattooed all over me. But I'm just too sensitive for it, and it drives me crazy. So I can't get like all the tattoos that I would want.
And you also designed one, right?
Yeah, I just recently after the book came out, got a request from an online friend who's a big Twin Peaks fan. Shout out to James,
Shout
Fire
out.
Walk with James. He's been supportive of all my comic books whenever I've put out my little Twin Peaks fan comic books and stuff. I often offer like original art to go along with them because I feel like I can't really sell David Lynch's comic books of his stuff. So I kind of sell the original art, but give the comic books as a gift to go
Oh,
with it.
yeah, that makes sense.
Uh, and he's always been supportive, like getting everyone that comes out and stuff like that. Commissioned a piece of artwork for me as a gift that he was given to somebody and stuff like that. So when he contacted me about wanting a David Lynch tattoo with he was going to have some text around it saying "Fix your hearts or die" and stuff.
cool.
So I worked up a couple of ideas for him to then turn loose with his amazing tattoo artist, and she kind of took it and ran with the David Lynch portrait, but added like some cool roses and other stuff to it to make it
Nice.
really work. So he got a cool tattoo out of that. So
Sweet. I love
That is
that.
so
I love
cool.
that you're part. Yes, I love that you're part of the tattoo industry world, even though you're no more, there will be no more tattoos directly on you, Gilbert.
Yeah, probably
Well,
not.
never say never.
But
That's right.
yeah,
Never say never.
yeah.
It's true.
Uh,
Never say never.
Being a big comic book fan and working in a comic book store and drawing all the time, I used to get asked to do, tattoos all the time for people. And There's something that I kind of enjoy drawing, but then as I like worked for a while in an art supply store and I got to meet so many people that were tattoo artists or that were interning and stuff, and just kind of it put two and two together for me because I'm a little bit slow that I was like, hey, all of these tattoo artists are actually really good artists in their own right. Uh, I kind of felt unless you really wanted a specific thing of my artwork, but most of the time people were like, hey, can you redraw this, Spider-Man from this issue? And then I'm going to go have a tattoo artist put it on me. It's like, it's already drawn. They can just take it
Yeah.
and do
Yeah.
it.
Oh, right. No,
That I,
yeah.
that I kind of started to be, like, yeah, unless somebody needs something really, really specific from me that is my own thing, I would rather see them work with their tattoo artists and give them the chance to do it properly because they know what's going to work on the skin better than I do. I'll put in too many tiny lines or, whatever, that they're going to know as they're creating the artwork that you're going to get something awesome and it's going to work as a tattoo better than what I'm going to be able to do. So.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely makes sense.
But
And,
James, yeah, I made an exception for him. I was like, yeah, hell yeah, I'm going to do his. So,
That's so cool. I got to see this. You got to
yeah.
send it to me, a picture.
yeah, I'll send some photos that James sent me of the artwork and some of the stuff that I sketched up for him, and then what he finally got. Because his tattoo artist, uh, like her artwork is already amazing. So I told James right away, like if she has any changes she suggests, trust her.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you don't have to send me a picture of 100% mine and be, worried that something changed or something like that.
It has to be
And they,
adapted to the
yeah,
skin. I mean, it's a totally
yep,
different form of expression. So it's like, yeah, there's those
yeah,
minutia things that like as you're not a tattoo artist, so that you don't know how those things could
yeah.
apply the application. Gilbert,
So,
you got to hook me up with James. I got to get him on the pod. Talk about his tattoo
oh, okay, yeah,
and do
yeah.
a shout out to
He's got
you.
quite
Then
a
we'll do a
few.
shout out to you, Gilbert.
Yeah, he has a couple. Like he's a true amazing fan, and so he was
Yeah.
showing me he's got I think he probably has 4 or 5 now. I think this was like his fifth, like David Lynch related tattoo.
Yeah,
Wow.
So
dude, I
yeah,
gotta talk
he's
to this guy.
Yeah, you
yeah,
definitely
yeah.
do.
Yeah. I've got so many Twin Peaks tattoos now. I can't even count. I don't even know how many I have. Anyway, I gotta talk to
Yeah.
James. Will, what is next? Okay. Is there another Twin Peaks tattoo in your future? And if there
Um,
is, what is it? And if there isn't, what would it be in an
that's a
alternate
good.
dimension?
Wow, that's a good question. I don't have one in mind yet. I don't know if I'm going to get another tattoo. I have 9 tattoos, which, might seem like a lot to some, might seem like not that much to others. I just, but if, I mean, it could very well be a Twin Peaks tattoo if I do get another one. It's a very good question. I mean, part of me wants to say Lynch, but I don't know. That's that might be tough to render.
You get the right artist, you can do it. You mean like a portraiture of his face or
Yeah,
something? Yeah.
yeah, like one with
Yeah.
the hair and everything.
Oh.
It'd be very very cool image. Maybe I have room on my left bicep, so perhaps that.
Okay, this is a question for both of you. Who in Twin Peaks, what character would you like to see have a tattoo and what would it be and why?
It's been on my mind a lot, and I'm kind of working on a like another little mini comic story about it. But Wyndham Earle with
Mm.
a chess piece or a couple of
Oh,
chess pieces on it. I've been thinking about like a story and sketched up some thumbnails for a Wyndham Earle story, and I'm just thinking the chess pieces. He might have a couple of chess tattoos if he had any.
Yeah, you would. Good answer. What do you think, Will?
That's a good question. I think, well, he might have. I don't recall. He might have even had this tattoo in the series, but I feel like Jerry Horn needs like a pot leaf tattoo on him somewhere.
That's
A big
really
one, maybe all over his back.
a full back piece of just like a huge
Yeah,
weed
just a
leaf. Oh
huge
my
weed
God,
leaf.
that's so great. That's so great. I think David Patrick Kelly would be on board for that. He'd be like, yeah, okay, I can sit for that.
Yeah,
Makeup. Yeah. Oh
who
my
knows?
God. Great
He might already
answers, you
have one.
guys. Those are great answers. I love those answers. I feel like they're really spot on and also not ones that I've heard before. So well done, both of
Oh,
you.
nice,
Yeah.
cool.
Will, is there anything else that you want to say about the book as we wrap up? And also, I want to hear from both of you how listeners can find you.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a fan of Twin Peaks or just David Lynch in general, or even a fan of filmmaking, I recommend checking out the book. It's called The Tao of Twin Peaks, the meaning behind David Lynch's hit TV series. And it's available on Amazon, and you can also order it at your local bookstore if you want to support your brick and mortar establishment. And you can find me on social media at WD Filmmaker and at the Tao of Twin Peaks.
I'm mostly on Instagram as Mothbot, Mothbot, posting artwork there and occasionally running around on like Facebook trying to repost the same stuff. But I'm somewhat haphazard at the social media at best right now because I've been like trying to limit how much I'm on there.
Good job.
So yeah, I used to post with a hashtag that was draw every day or die when I was working on stuff, and I was drawing something every day and like posting it. But then when I went through that slump, like we talked about earlier, where I just kind of felt a little creatively bereft and stuff, it just I was like, oh, well, I'm not drawing every day, so I guess I just have to die now. So I decided to let the social media stuff die off just a little bit because it became to feel like a bit of a chore, but I'm still there. I wanted to share one more little trinket because I know on a
Yeah.
couple of your podcasts you've asked people about their favorite like Twin Peaks related memorabilia and
Mm,
stuff that they have.
yeah.
So I have a piece that I've always been wanting to talk about.
My God, I love this. This is like
That's
so beautifully nerdy, Gilbert. This
this is
makes my little heart sing.
so a friend of mine named Chris Raleigh, Route 9 Signs, he loves and makes little miniaturized versions
Oh
of
my God,
famous
look at that.
signs.
Stop it right now.
And
That
a
is the
couple of
cutest
years
fucking thing.
ago, yeah, I commissioned this from him to make the our cafe. It even
That is
has
so
a
cool.
little newspaper stand that has a cup full of cigarette butts, and the newspaper inside, he's so detail oriented. The newspaper inside has an article about like chess related murder happening in town and stuff like that,
That is super cool.
baffling the police and stuff. Little cigarette butts and coffee cups and stuff on the tarmac and everything. It's got like rust and dripping, but Chris's work is amazing, kind of recreating and kind of preserving like historic like neon signs and stuff. And
Hmm.
so I had to get this bad boy, and it goes above my desk because
It's gorgeous.
it's just the most amazing thing, and he did such a wonderful job on it. So
This is the
um,
cutest. It's very detailed. It feels so spot on.
yeah,
The double
yeah,
R sign, and it's a pretty decent size too. Like it's pretty
yeah.
big.
Yeah, it's about like 18
Yeah,
inches tall or so,
that's
like that. So it's a
amazing.
good size. It's probably like my favorite like nerdy little collectible thing
Yeah,
that I've ever gotten because it was just so he just nailed all the
all
details.
the
And I don't know that
details.
he's that familiar with like Twin Peaks, but it just shows you the meticulousness of his research that he even has the Twin Peaks Gazette in there with, an
Yeah.
article relevant to the show and stuff that he did that deep dive for me and put together such a cool little piece of memorable collectible that I'm like, that's probably my favorite.
That's so cool. Well, thank you both so much. This has just been joyful, and I really appreciate the time and all of you shared. And thank you for your artistry. This book is dope. Everybody who's listening, go get a copy. You will not be disappointed.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Em. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Anne.
Thanks for listening to the Twin Peaks Tattoo Podcast. Rate and review us on iTunes and follow me on Instagram @emsmarinelli.